Hi, my name is Megan Lawrence, and I am the Director of Accessibility, Evangelism, and Intersectionality here at Microsoft. I'm also the co-lead of employees with mental health conditions. I myself have a mental health disability, and so really wanted to take the opportunity to talk a little bit more about what does hybrid work, the future of work, really look like, not only for people who have mental health disabilities like myself, but for all of us. Over the last 22 months of the pandemic, we have seen so much change, and I want to let you know that I think we will continue to be in transition. So it couldn't be more important to be thinking about your work-life balance, your mental health, and how you are going to ultimately think about how you organize your life. Now, when I look back through the pandemic, I've learned a couple of lessons. One of them is that community is more important than ever. There were periods of time where I myself felt extremely isolated. I have a husband who is a first-line worker, and so that meant he was working outside of the home for sometimes 14 hours a day, which meant I was spending a lot of time alone in front of this computer. And so I was craving the ability to make connections with people. And I used technology in a way that really I don't think I had ever used it before. And so I say to people, when you have asked me how often do I use Teams, a couple of years ago, I would have said, oh, I use it all the time. And now I literally mean it. I use it every single day. And it has become so important for the way that I communicate. But what I need is that this technology to be as diverse as the communities that we see around us. So being able to do things like use emojis when maybe I'm not in a position to come on camera and use my voice to chime into a conversation. And I think we have to be realistic about what we've seen over the last couple of years, which is that the disability community is growing. This is due to long-term COVID, which here in the United States is now considered to be a disability. But perhaps most importantly, it's the mental health community that has been growing. So people with mental health disabilities are not only the number one disability in the world, but in fact, we've seen this to be the fastest growing community. So I know these are US-centric statistics, so forgive me, but I think they're incredibly telling. And we do see this mirrored across the world, which was before the pandemic in 2019. 8% of the American population reported having an anxiety disorder. Last month, it was up to 35%, and it spiked as high as 40 to 42%. So what we know is that people are experiencing mental health symptoms much more often, and that does lead to diagnosable conditions. And we've seen this in the news. I mean, we have talked about mental health and being remote work, isolation, how that's impacted students and many of our children and university students as they switch to go to school online. And so it is more important than ever that we begin to break down that cone of silence by telling our stories, by being open about what our lived experiences are as people with mental health disabilities, as well as everybody who has, mental health and emotional well-being. We're going to reduce stigma and bias and help us find a new way to not only work, but to live and to play. So what we are beginning to see is that humans are actually quite good at living in crisis. And so it's the next 3 years ahead of us in which we will see mental health continue to be an important topic that will be discussed not only in the workplace, but really around the world in every culture that we see. And we call this the blast zone. And so I want to really use this as an opportunity to say, let's embrace mental health and hybrid work. Not everything is going to be easy to do, but there's certainly ways that we can become resilient, support one another, and really take the time we need to be our best. So today I'm actually joining you not from my home office. This is really one of the first times that I have left my home office in the last 22 months, and I'm joining you from a Microsoft office. Now, you may laugh, but I forgot to bring my key card with me. I just wasn't in the mindset of being used to going to an office. And so I had to drive back home. I had to get the key card. And it just was this moment where my anxiety started to spike because I knew that I had a meeting coming up. I knew that I was going to be coming to you live at this conference. And so I share that to just say mental health is human. Things like remembering key cards and is there an available conference room and should I take this call from home or should I go into the office are all new types of questions that we're really asking ourselves. But remember that mental health lies on a spectrum. And so that means that you may be a person like me with a permanent mental health condition, or you may have a temporary mental health condition like postpartum depression or supporting an ill family member. And certainly work deadlines can also cause mental health symptoms. So watch a few videos and let me know if you see yourself in any of these.
I'm Ellen, and I'm the PM for a new Azure feature that is launching on Wednesday. My team has been working on this for about 2 months, and the last week has been brutal. I've slept very little over the last 3 nights, and I'm worried I'm going to mess something up that will impact the launch. I'm not even looking forward to Thursday, because there are 4 other projects I've had to put off, while I've prioritized getting this product to ship on time.
I'm Jacob. I run our corporate events team, which means smiling a lot, getting others to have fun, and being available 24/7. Last year, my brother was diagnosed with liver cancer, and I had to take time off to help him and his family. It was really difficult for me to step away from work, but I knew I had to do it. Ever since coming back, though, work has been causing me a lot of anxiety because I wish I could spend more time with my brother. I got a call this morning and my brother has to go back to the hospital. I'm not sure how I'm going to balance all that I have on my plate right now.
I'm Joe, and I'm a new manager for our accounts payable team. I love numbers, I love my job, and I love the people I get to work with. I was diagnosed as bipolar 3 years ago, and it was a rough time getting started on this journey. I left my last job at a bank right after I was promoted because my mood swings caused a lot of frustration in that environment. I'm scared the same thing will happen at this job. And what makes things worse is I'm managing 3 people in this new role, and I haven't had the courage to tell my directs about this yet.
So if we were all in a room together, I would ask you to raise your hand if you saw yourself in any one of those examples. And I guarantee you that almost every single one of you would say yes, because life can be difficult. And when we're balancing the things that we love to do at work and being able to collaborate with colleagues with what's going on outside of work, we recognize that there is a lot to do. And I want to remind you that really mental health is not one moment in time. This really is the way that we are living all of our lives. So I'll tell you one personal story again, which was, at the start of the pandemic, I started working from home and I was working 12, 14 hours a day. I felt like I always had to be on, like I had to answer that email immediately, because if I didn't seem like I was working, I was afraid I would be the first person to be let go. And that really caused me to have a breakdown. I came down the stairs and my husband said, "Hey, I think your work-life balance is a little bit off." And I broke down into tears. And what I realized in that moment was that I really had an opportunity to start thinking about boundaries. And that led me on a really interesting journey to think about how I structure my workday to be successful and to take care of my mental health and well-being. And so I want to talk a little bit about how we are doing that and how technology may really be helpful in that. Before we lead into technology, though, I really want to talk about culture and language. Language is so incredibly important. So I encourage all of you to think about the way that you use words around mental health. So don't say things like, "Oh my gosh, that person is so OCD," or "he's being super manic." That can be very offensive and not really taking into account the seriousness of many mental health conditions. I often ask people if they do come to you and disclose that they have a mental health condition or maybe having a hard time, that you be an active listener. Be that person that can help them find the right resources, and avoid saying things like, "Oh, it's not as bad as you think," or, "Other people have it much worse." We want people to come forward and confide and really get what they need out of organizations. And if you're a manager, I know you've been having conversations about mental health over the last year, and that will continue as many of us have a hybrid work load where sometimes we may be working from home, sometimes we may be coming into the office, and even something such as travel, right? So remember, be thoughtful, ask the questions. How can I support you? And last but not least, make sure that you don't say things like, you would feel much better if fill in the blank. You took a yoga class, you started eating gluten-free. I'm just making things up that people have honestly said to me, right? Happiness is a choice is something that's not appropriate when somebody does come to you and say that they are having a mental health condition and or experience. We want to be supportive. We want to create cultures of emotional inclusion where people can tell us how they're doing, because that's one of the most important ways that we are going to create psychological safety, which is at the heart, actually, of innovation and the way that we drive new creative thinking, because people feel safe. So language is incredibly important, and it is a pathway to inclusion. All right, so let's talk a little bit about what actually happens at work, which is that over $1 trillion is lost, and this was before the pandemic, so I know these numbers are even higher, is lost to productivity because of anxiety and depression. And so 20% of lost productivity is due to absenteeism. And here is where I say, that's great. If you need to take a mental health day, if you need to take care of yourself, do it. But how many times have you shown up and not really been up to the task, but went to work anyways? Because you felt like you had to, because you felt guilty if you didn't. And that's where we see 80% of lost productivity due to presenteeism. Technically, you may be there, but you are not in a place where you can truly be creative, innovative, and productive. So this is a moment where I say, take care of yourselves and those around you, because really good work comes when you have had the time that you need to be at your best. And technology has a dual role to play. I know that we have seen lots of articles in the news that this concept of having technology in our lives all of the time, both personally and professionally, can increase symptoms of anxiety and depression. And people like me with clinical mental health conditions, it can actually significantly negatively impact us even more by that concept of always being on and always being connected. As I said earlier, I thought that always being connected would make me seem valuable, but it was actually the opposite. It was getting the downtime that I needed to be in a place where I could be productive, but that was a major mind shift for me. The good news is that we are seeing a rise of digital well-being in many of our products. So let's get real. Are you one of these people? 70% of us never unplug from work. So we just look at email just once or twice over the weekend, or we're on vacation and we spend a couple hours each day, logging in because we think it will actually make it easier when we get back. And I encourage everybody, if there's an emergency or a manager needs something, I'm not suggesting that we don't think critically about when we're connecting and how to stay connected when it's needed. But I also think that we have to disconnect and unplug from work in order to recharge, and that has to be an intentional exercise, because I am totally one of these people that checks their phone right before they even get out of bed. I am phone in the face, first thing, checking, seeing what's going on, and I haven't even put my feet on the ground yet. I say all of that because it's hard to disconnect. It's hard to disconnect no matter if we're working in an office, if we're working at home, or we've got a hybrid schedule. But this is the moment where we can begin to be thoughtful about boundaries with ourselves and with others to, again, create cultures of emotional inclusion where people can thrive. So for me, I have been using Viva Wellbeing, which is part of the Microsoft suite, to really help me think about what are my work behaviors. So for example, I can begin to understand, how often I'm working into the evening. I can actually check my mood throughout the day. and even make sure that I'm getting breaks and doing things that are supportive, like doing a quick meditation, a breathing exercise, right? And so if you are a manager or running a small company or running a big company, one thing that I want you to take away from this is that when organizations focus on employee emotional well-being, it actually enables innovation. And what we see is that companies become 25% more profitable and twice as innovative. So this isn't something that's nice to have. Supporting employee mental health and well-being is the pathway to modernization and staying relevant as an employer. Right now, we're going through the great reshuffle. This is real. People are moving jobs. They're going to smaller companies. They're going to bigger companies. They're taking half-time. They are taking all kinds of changes, but they are looking for organizations that reflect their values. And mental health and well-being as a core priority of any organization is key, not only to attracting top talent, but keeping great talent. Okay, so one of my favorite things is personal insights, where I can begin to see what my behavior looks like. And so, one of the things that I do is track how often I'm working after hours. So my commitment to myself and my family is that on Friday nights and Saturdays, as much as possible, I completely disconnect, and I actually get a purple square when I do that. And so it's just a way for me to keep myself honest, to unplug, to make sure that I'm really thinking about the way in which I am getting the downtime that I need. And now it's become a conversation with my manager. So my manager will say, "Hey, Megan, get a purple square tonight," which is their way of saying, "Look, you're doing a great job. Take care of yourself." So think about the language. Think about the way in which you're engaging with those around you to support good mental health behaviors. Now, the My Cortana email may be the most magical thing that I have personally been using lately. And I know it sounds silly, but this is one of those places where I say, help me help myself. So what it will do is, using AI, go into your calendar and find time for focus. And focus time is so incredibly important so that you feel good about getting the downtime that you need after hours. And what it will do is actually shut down notifications while you are in focus time. Now, don't worry, you can absolutely set a breakthrough notification. I know my manager can break through in case there is an emergency and we need to get after something. But here, we know that it takes 23 minutes on average to refocus after checking just one chat or one email. So turn off notifications, get that focus time that you need, and get productive. The other one I really like is the take a break, which is find those times for me to stand up, to breathe, to go back and do that 5-minute meditation with Headspace. I will have to say I was reluctant on that one. I thought, meditating at work, I don't know. I'm not sure that's something that's exactly for me, but it has ended up being really, really good and very professionally done. So if you have Viva Wellbeing, check it out. I think you're going to like it. And really learn what works for you. I am a cameras on person. I want to see others' faces. I want to see expressions. Body language is really important to me. But for others, having cameras off may be an important way in which that they are engaging in hybrid work. So have the conversation. Be open about what works for you and communicating that with other people on your team. And recognize that meeting fatigue is very real. Research at Microsoft shows that connecting online in a 2D world via video conferencing like Teams takes more cognitive effort than meeting face to face. And so as you go into a hybrid work environment, be thoughtful about that, right? One, think about the meetings that you have, getting crisp on the ones that you need, and thinking about ones that you may want to have in person versus ones that you may want to have over video conference. And one of the things that I have found incredibly important is being able to use that chat. It's a great way to stay connected to a conversation when maybe you're not in a place, and this is true for me if I'm having anxiety or I want to raise my hand and enter the conversation. I can continue to stay engaged. And I will say that emojis can be a really nice way to express how you feel even when you don't necessarily have the vocabulary to express it. Okay, as we wrap up, I want to hit on burnout. This is a real phenomenon that many of us have already faced and may face in the future. This is certainly true for me. I could feel myself getting really short. My creativity was really bad. And so for me, there were a couple things that I did. One of them, take time off. And when I did, I really unplugged because I just needed to get that space and that break. The second thing that I personally do is set boundaries. So there are certain hours after hours that I don't work, and I communicate that with everybody so that they know that if I don't respond until the next morning, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just getting the downtime that I need. And I do that also with my team. And here's another little tip that I personally use, which is bucketing tasks. Look, our mood changes throughout the day. There's some times when I'm really energized and others where I'm feeling a little bit less focused. So for me, I know the activities that I can do to match my mood. So if I'm feeling a little tired or a little unfocused, I go straight to email. I know that laugh at me, but email is this great, it's a bucketed task. I read the email, I answer the email, I put it in a folder. It is one of those activities that's really great for me when I need something very linear. But what is that for you? It's a very interesting exercise to begin to think about how your moods can match what you do throughout your day. Now, to all the managers out there, what we have seen is that one-on-ones with your employees are a really critical tool during this hybrid work time. One, it really just helps employees get that focus that they need, check in with you. Are they working on the things that are driving impact in the company? And when they do that, we see that work hours go down, which is good because overall work hours have increased over the last 22 months. That lack of commute often means that we're just working those extra hours. Well, that may have led to increase in productivity, may give us extra time to take on projects that we really care about. We also have to be thoughtful about how we help our employees get focused. And make sure that you check in. This is a COVID silver lining. Never before in my work have I experienced a situation where people regularly check in. How are you doing? And it's okay. It's okay when I say today's a tough day. And I think that's a real behavior that we want to continue to see moving forward into the future, which is we are humans. Emotions make us intelligent. So engage with the whole employee. It's okay to not be okay every day. And that's critical. And when you do check in with people, what that means is that the employees feel like you honestly value them as a whole person and that you are prioritizing wellness. Now, you can't help me but put in a little bit of the future. What do we hope to see coming out of, especially here at Microsoft? And so I'll just talk briefly about our hackathon that we just finished about a week ago. We are nerds. We love to hack. And part of the beauty is bringing together the disability community with our engineering excellence community to push the boundaries of what's possible, especially around technology and mental health. And so what we have seen is that more and more people are engaging on hackathons that specifically focus on mental health and well-being. And I think that that is absolutely a direct response of the impact that the pandemic has had on our mental health, and that how our movement and transition into hybrid work, which again is going to be another couple of years of transition, will continue to see mental health as top of mind. And so for us, this is about creating new applications to connect people. It's a way for people to begin to engage in conversation and get the support that they need. Now, here's my challenge for you as we all move into questions, which is many of you may have seen the Xbox Adaptive Controller commercial. It's a piece of hardware that allows people with limited reach or strength and other types of disabilities to engage in gaming. And we have seen that gaming has been an important component of staying connected with friends and family when maybe we couldn't physically otherwise do so. And gaming for self-care can be a really important tool in the tool belt for somebody with a mental health condition. Now, I love the way that this tool is being used, but the package that it comes in may be even cooler. So our packaging team leaned into inclusive design, really putting disability at the heart of the way that we designed a new box that you could open simply with just one hand, even a finger, right? And so my challenge for you is, what is your box moment as you go forward? Maybe it's creating something brand new that you've never done before, or maybe it's reinventing something that you've done for a very long time, like putting devices in boxes. So with that, I encourage all of you to take one really good deep breath with me. Here we go. Don't forget to simply breathe throughout your day, especially during the conference. It signals to the nervous system to relax. And we know from research it decreases anxiety, depression, and stress. It can actually get more oxygen into the system to help you stay alert. Because the best way of taking care of the future is to take care of this present moment. So with that, thank you so much for being here, and I'd love to answer questions if they're out there.
Great, thank you so much. We actually have lots of questions coming in and a really interactive group, so thank you all for those. Let's see here. One good one was, as managers and with our peers, how do we read and recognize signals of mental health among our teams, especially when we're not seeing each other as consistently or in passing?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think this is where we really need to lean into, honestly, just asking people, how are you doing? And the other one that I really like is, how can I support you? So one of the things that I firmly believe is that traditionally we have seen mental health and well-being as the responsibility of an individual. Someone's going to know when to take the time off or gain access to resources through benefits like therapy. But what I want to see is our shift to it being the opportunity of the organization to create cultures of emotional inclusion. And that starts with conversation. So how can you be supportive of somebody so they don't feel like you're coming to them and saying, are you okay? What are you doing, right? Open up that conversation because we don't want to assume anything. I have seen in my own personal life as a person with a disability, a lot of assumption. Because I have an anxiety disorder, maybe a manager hasn't given me an additional project that could have led to a promotion because they thought that I couldn't handle it. So again, lean into curiosity. It sounds simple, but this is actually a really important way to take care of team members, which is open the conversation, ask people how you can help.
I love that. And this one just came in, but it's sort of along the same lines. Any ideas how someone not in management can encourage a culture that prioritizes or at least acknowledges the importance of mental health?
You know, not until about 4 years ago did I start talking openly about my own mental health, because frankly, I had a lot of shame. And I had been conditioned throughout my life as this wasn't something to speak openly about. And so I think storytelling is one of the most important things we can do to open up that culture. And so if you feel comfortable or confident, or if you want to work with HR and storytelling teams to really begin to tell, stories and experiences of people in your organization, man, that cracks it wide open in a really good way.
Yeah, that's great. Another one came in that said, I always suggest to my children and my wife, never use your bedroom as a place to do remote work, as your mind is unable to disconnect when you want to take a break. Is this a good suggestion? How can you best define how to isolate your workspace from your private space?
Now okay, everybody start putting in your techniques. I think what we've learned during the pandemic is not everybody's had the luxury of having a separate space to either go to school or, work remotely. And so I think we've done lots of different things. So I'll tell you what I do every day. I wake up, I take a shower, I get dressed just like I'm going into the office, because that signals to me that I'm ready for the workday. And then afterwards I put my workout clothes on and I take the dogs for a walk. So I bookend, and I do that by changing my outfit. But I think so many people have incredible ways in which they have discovered how to create those signals to themselves and their families. Heck, even my dogs now keep me honest. They're like, we're going to need you to get on that walk. So I'd love to see those suggestions coming through the chat.
That's great. Yeah, those are starting to come through. So I think we're at time, so we should wrap up, but a couple questions coming in asking if you'll be willing to share your slides. I know the session is being recorded and I posted the link to find it, but we can add those slides up there if you're willing to share them.
Oh, absolutely. Mental health is one of those things where it's better when we share and we talk about it. So I'm just so pleased that you invited me to be here today and continue on to have that conversation and take great care of yourselves and those around you.